I only have 5 years to live. Marry me and the entire estate, and the wine production facility will be yours. Eleanor Hargrove never imagined the day would come when she would need to beg for a marriage. At 42, she had always been known for her independence and determination, running one of the largest wineries in Napa Valley, California, all by herself. It was when the doctors confirmed the diagnosis that her life turned upside down. An aggressive brain tumor that specialists estimated would give her only 5 years to live. And now, walking between the rows of grapes on her property, she was heading to the only man who could help her solve the biggest problem of her existence. Caleb Miller was crouched down examining the roots of a vine when he heard the footsteps approaching. He knew that sound well, the heels hitting the packed earth. It was the boss. At 28, he had worked in the vineyard since he was 16 and had never exchanged more than a few words with the owner of the estate. "Caleb, I need to speak with you," said Eleanor, stopping beside him. The young man stood up immediately, wiping his dirt-covered hands on his grey shirt. His brown eyes met hers, which looked different. There was something desperate in that blue gaze that had always been so sure. "Yes, Miss Eleanor. Is something wrong with the plants?" She took a deep breath, adjusting her navy blue blazer that contrasted with the rural surroundings. Caleb noticed her hands were trembling slightly. "It's not about the plants. It's about me. About us." "Us?" Caleb stopped wiping his hands, confused. Eleanor looked around, making sure the other workers were far enough away not to hear. The men continued their activities among the rows of vines, unaware of the conversation that was about to change 2 lives forever. "Caleb, I need to get married, quickly." The young man blinked several times as if he hadn't understood correctly. "You need to get married? I don't understand, Miss Eleanor." "I know it must seem crazy, but hear me out completely before you say anything." Eleanor walked a few steps toward a tree that offered shade, indicating for him to follow. Caleb obeyed, still not understanding anything at all. 3 weeks ago, I found out I have a brain tumor. The doctors gave me 5 years to live, at most." The words came out of her mouth directly, without beating around the bush. Caleb felt as if someone had punched him in the stomach. "Miss Eleanor, I'm so sorry, but I don't understand what this has to do with me." "It has everything to do with you, Caleb. My lawyer explained to me that if I don't get married, when I pass from this life, the entire inheritance will go to my brother. And you know Julian." Caleb did know. Julian Hargrove was known in the region as a man who only thought about money and gambling. There were rumors he had already lost a lot of the family's money on bets. "I can't let that happen. This estate employs 50 families. The winery supports the entire surrounding community. If Julian takes over, he'll sell everything within months." "But Miss Eleanor, why are you telling me this? You could marry any man you want." Eleanor laughed, but it was a bitter laugh without joy. "Do you really think so, Caleb?" "I've tried. In the last 3 years, I've had 2 serious relationships. As soon as the men found out about the illness, they disappeared. They don't want a woman with an expiration date." Caleb leaned against the tree trunk, trying to process everything he was hearing. The situation was too surreal to be true. "You are the only man I trust completely, Caleb. In 12 years working here, I've never seen you miss a single day. I've never seen you lie or cheat anyone. You treat the other employees as if they were your family. Ms. Eleanor, I don't know what to say. I only have 5 years to live, Caleb. Marry me and the entire estate and the production facility will be yours. You could ensure all these families keep working. You could expand the business the way you've always dreamed." The proposal dropped like a bomb in the afternoon silence. Caleb looked at his calloused hands, then at the elegant woman before him. The gap between their 2 worlds seemed unbridgeable. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. "Are you serious, Mum?" asked Caleb, still incredulous. "Completely serious. Look, I know it's a strange situation, but think of the possibilities. You could implement all those ideas you always suggested about sustainable farming. You could provide better conditions for the workers." Caleb stepped away from the tree and began pacing back and forth. His mind was in a whirlwind. Since he was a boy, he dreamed of having his own land, of being able to apply the knowledge he'd acquired over the years. But he never imagined the opportunity would come like this. "I need an answer by tomorrow, Caleb. The legal documents take time to prepare, and time is not on my side. Miss Eleanor, I can't think straight right now. This is too much. I know. It's a lot to process. But answer me one thing. Would you feel capable of taking care of all this? The estate, the facility, the employees?" Caleb stopped pacing and looked directly at her. "I would, yes. I know every inch of this land. I know the name of every employee and their families. I know which vines produce best each season. Then what's stopping you from accepting?" Her question caught him off guard. What was really stopping him? The fear of not being good enough. The feeling that he was taking advantage of a difficult situation. "I don't want you to think I'm taking advantage of your situation." Eleanor moved closer to him, and for the first time in years touched an employee's arm. "Caleb, I'm the one taking advantage here. I'm asking you to sacrifice your freedom to save what I've built my entire life. But what would I gain from it? Besides the estate and the facility, you'd gain the chance to make a difference in the lives of dozens of families. You'd gain the opportunity to build something even greater than I managed." The sun was beginning to set behind the mountains, painting the sky with orange hues. The other workers were already preparing to leave. Caleb knew he had to make a decision that would change his life forever. "If I accept, how would it be? I mean, would it be a real marriage?" "It would be a marriage on paper, Caleb. I would understand if you wanted to have your own relationships. We just need to be officially married for the inheritance to be valid. And you? Wouldn't you like to try to live these 5 years with someone you truly loved?" His question surprised her. For a moment, Eleanor let her guard down, and he could see the vulnerable woman behind the businesswoman. "I would like to, yes. But I've learned that when you have an illness like this, love turns into pity, and I don't want anyone's pity." "Who said it would be pity? It could be companionship, respect, affection." Eleanor looked at him curiously. There was a wisdom in that young man she had never noticed before. "Would you accept a marriage like that, based on companionship?" "I would accept a marriage based on a common purpose, Miss Eleanor. If our purpose is to protect this estate and these families, perhaps we can build something beautiful on that foundation." His words touched something deep in Eleanor's heart. It had been a long time since she'd heard anyone talk about building something beautiful. "So you accept?" Caleb looked once more at the grapevines, at the large house in the distance, at the workers finishing their day. He thought of his mother, who had worked her whole life as a maid, dreaming that one day he would have better opportunities. "I accept, Miss Eleanor, but on one condition." "What?" "That you fight for these 5 years, that you try every possible treatment, that you don't give up on life." Eleanor felt her eyes fill with tears. How long had it been since anyone had shown they cared whether she lived or died? "I promise, Caleb, I will fight." "Then we have an agreement." They acknowledged each other with a handshake, sealing a pact that neither of them knew exactly where it would lead. The next morning, Eleanor woke earlier than usual. She had many things to sort out before the news of the marriage spread. She knew she would face resistance, especially from her brother Julian. Caleb, for his part, had barely slept. He had spent the whole night thinking about the conversation, trying to understand if he had made the right decision. When he arrived at work, some colleagues noticed he was different. "Hey, Caleb, what's with that face? Looks like you've seen a ghost," joked Silas, one of the oldest workers. "Just tired, Silas, slept poorly. Careful not to get the boss lady upset. She's been acting a bit strange lately." If he knew how much things were about to change, Silas wouldn't make that kind of joke. Around 10 in the morning, Eleanor appeared in the vineyards looking for Caleb. This time, she was not alone. A man in a suit accompanied her, carrying a briefcase. "Caleb, this is Mr. Harrison, my lawyer. He will explain all the legal details of our agreement." The lawyer, a man in his 50s, greeted Caleb cordially, but his surprise at the whole situation was noticeable. "Mr. Caleb, I need you to understand this is not a common procedure. Ms. Eleanor explained the situation to me, and I have prepared some documents that protect both parties. What kind of protection? Well, first we have the prenuptial agreement, which makes it clear that you will only have rights to the assets after Ms. Eleanor's passing. During the marriage, you will have decision-making power over the operations of the estate and the production facility, but you cannot sell or mortgage anything without her authorization. Caleb nodded. It seemed fair. We also have a clause that protects you in case Ms. Eleanor makes a full recovery from the illness. In that case, a new agreement regarding the division of assets would be made. And if I want to separate from her before before the term, in that case you would have no rights to anything. You would return to your pre-marriage condition. Eleanor intervened in the conversation. Caleb, I want you to know you can change your mind at any time. If you meet someone special and want to build a real family, I would understand. Ms. Eleanor, I already said I accept. I won't go back on my word. The lawyer observed the interaction between the two with interest. It wasn't common to see such cordiality in arrangements of this kind. Very well. If both agree, we can schedule the civil marriage for next week. I also suggest we execute Ms. Eleanor's will on the same occasion. So quickly? Asked Caleb. Mr. Caleb, in medical situations like this, time is something we cannot waste. The sooner we formalize everything, the better for both parties. Eleanor nodded. Harrison is right. Besides, I want to start treatment next week as well. I will need to be away from the estate frequently. What kind of treatment? Asked Caleb. Chemotherapy and radiation. The doctors think it might buy a few more months. The reality of the situation hit Caleb with full force at that moment. This wasn't just a business agreement. She was a woman fighting against time, trying to protect what she had built over a lifetime. Ms. Eleanor, you said yesterday you were going to fight. A few more months isn't fighting. It's just delaying. Caleb, Are there other treatments? In other places? The lawyer interjected. Mr. Caleb, with all due respect, medical matters are not part of the marriage contract. Yes, they are. Caleb raised his voice for the first time. If I'm marrying her, if I'm going to take care of everything that is hers, then her life is my business too. Eleanor was surprised by his vehemence. She hadn't expected him to truly care about her health. There is an experimental treatment in Boston, but it's expensive and the chances of success are small. How much? Caleb, that's not... How much, Ms. Eleanor? $200,000. But I won't spend that money on illusions. Yes, you will. If I'm to take care of this estate, then I'll start by taking care of the one who built it. The lawyer looked from one to the other, clearly impressed by the young man's determination. Very well. I will include in the contract that Mr. Caleb will have the authority to make medical decisions on Ms. Eleanor's behalf, should she be unable to do so. That's not necessary, Eleanor protested. Yes, it is, Caleb insisted. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. The meeting ended with all documents signed and the wedding scheduled for the following Friday. It would be a simple ceremony at the courthouse with only the necessary witnesses. When the lawyer left, Eleanor and Caleb were alone again among the vines. Caleb, why are you doing this, truly? Doing what? Caring about me, about my health. You could simply wait for me, for time to pass. Caleb looked at her with a serious expression. Ms. Helena, my mother always taught me that when you accept a responsibility, you accept it completely. If I'm going to be your husband, even if only on paper, then I'm going to be the best husband possible. But I don't expect that from you. Maybe that's exactly why I want to do it. That simple answer stirred something in Eleanor she hadn't expected. It had been a long time since someone cared about her as a person, not as a businesswoman or an heiress. The following days passed like a whirlwind. The news of the marriage spread through the estate and the small town like wildfire. The reactions were as varied as possible. The estate workers were initially shocked, then curious. Most of them respected Caleb and knew of his dedication to his work. Some even commented that it might be good for Ms. Eleanor to have someone by her side. In town, however, the gossip was relentless. A wealthy businesswoman marrying an employee. There had to be something behind it. Some speculated she was pregnant, others that he had some kind of blackmail against her. The news reached Julian Hargrove's ears on Wednesday. He appeared at the estate like a hurricane, demanding explanations from his sister. "Eleanor, what is this madness?" he shouted as he entered her office. "Julian, lower your voice. We're in a company, not a tavern. Don't change the subject. Is it true you're going to marry an employee?" "It's true. Have you completely lost your mind? Do you know what people are saying?" Eleanor rose from her chair and faced her brother. "Julian, I don't owe anyone explanations about my personal life. Not even you." "Personal life?" "Eleanor, everyone knows this isn't personal. This is about inheritance. You're trying to cut me out of what is rightfully mine." "Rightfully yours?" Eleanor's voice rose an octave. "Julian, you never lifted a finger to build this estate. You never worked a single day here. You spent half of our parents' inheritance on gambling. That's beside the point. I am your only brother. If you die—" Eleanor interrupted Julian with a slap on the table that made all the objects jump. "If I die, Julian, is that really what you just said?" For the first time, Julian seemed to grasp the gravity of what he had said. Eleanor's face was red with anger and pain. "Eleanor, I didn't mean—" "You meant exactly that. You're here worried about the inheritance while I'm fighting for my life. What's this about fighting for your life?" Eleanor took a deep breath. She hadn't told anyone in the family about the illness yet, but perhaps it was time for Julian to know the truth. "I have a brain tumor, Julian. The doctors gave me 5 years to live." The silence that followed was heavy as lead. Julian sank into a chair, processing the information. "Eleanor, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew exactly what your reaction would be, the same one you're having now. Thinking about the inheritance before thinking about me. That's not true, isn't it? Then explain to me why the first thing you did upon hearing about the marriage was to come here and yell at me about your rights." Julian didn't know how to respond. His sister was right. His first concern had indeed been the money. "If you had married normally, I wouldn't have a problem. But marrying an employee— Eleanor, people will think he's taking advantage of you." "So, what if he is? At least he'll take care of the estate and the workers. You'd sell everything in 6 months." "I wouldn't do that." "Julian, you owe money to half the world. Last month, 2 debt collectors came looking for you here at the estate. You think I don't know?" Again, Julian didn't know how to answer. It was true his gambling debts had increased considerably in recent months. "Look, Eleanor, I admit I've made some mistakes with money, but that doesn't mean I would destroy what our parents built. Our parents started with a small property, Julian. The one who turned it into what it is today was me. I worked 15 hours a day for 20 years to get here. I know that, and I respect what you've done, but I can't accept you handing everything over to a stranger." At that moment, Caleb appeared at the office door. He had heard the raised voices and came to check if everything was all right. "Miss Eleanor, sorry to interrupt. Is everything all right here?" "Yes, Caleb. Please come in. I want you to meet my brother, Julian." Caleb extended his hand to greet him, but Julian merely looked him up and down with contempt. "So, you're the famous fiancé. What an interesting coincidence to discover my sister is sick exactly when she decides to marry you." "Julian!" Eleanor flared up. "What are you implying?" asked Caleb, keeping his calm. "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating it's very convenient for you that she has a terminal illness." Caleb took a step toward Julian, but Eleanor stepped between them. "Caleb, it's not worth it. Julian, get off my property, now." "Eleanor, you'll regret this. I'll contest this marriage in court. Do whatever you want, but know that if you try anything against Caleb or against me, you will never set foot on this estate again while I'm alive." Julian left, slamming the door. Eleanor sank into the chair, exhausted. "I'm sorry you had to witness that, Caleb. No need to apologize. I understand his position. It must be hard to accept that his sister is marrying someone like me." "Someone like you? What does that mean?" "Poor, uneducated, no important family." Eleanor stood up and went to the window overlooking the vineyards. "Caleb, do you want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who never missed a day of work in 12 years. I see someone who knows every detail of this estate better than the owner himself. I see someone who treats colleagues with respect and dignity." She turned to face him. "My brother has a college degree, came from a wealthy family, had every opportunity in the world. And yet he's an irresponsible person who only thinks of himself. You had none of those opportunities, but you're 1,000 times more of a man than he is." Her words touched Caleb deeply. It was the first time in his life that someone from her social class had recognized his worth in that way. "Thank you, Miss Eleanor. That means a lot to me." "Don't call me Miss Eleanor anymore. Starting tomorrow, we'll be husband and wife. You can just call me Eleanor." "All right, Eleanor." The name felt a bit strange coming from his mouth, but she smiled upon hearing it. "Now tell me something, Caleb. What do you plan to do first when you take over management of the estate?" The question caught him off guard. He had thought a lot about it in recent days, but didn't expect her to ask so directly. "Well, first I'd like to talk with all the employees individually, better understand their needs, their ideas. Often those who work directly with the land have insights that management doesn't notice." "Interesting, go on." "I'd also like to invest in sustainable technology, solar panels, a more efficient irrigation system, organic composting. Not just to reduce costs, but to position our wines as environmentally responsible." Eleanor nodded, impressed with his vision. "And what about the wines themselves? Any ideas for new products?" "Actually, I've been thinking a lot about that. How about we create a line of wines that tells the story of the families who work here? Each bottle could have the name and story of an employee. Customers would feel connected not just to the wine, but to the people who produced it." "Caleb, that's a brilliant idea. Why did you never suggest this to me before?" "Because before I was just an employee. Employees don't give marketing suggestions to bosses." "That's nonsense. From now on, you can and should give any suggestions you want." "Eleanor, can I ask a personal question?" "Of course." "Why did you never marry? I mean, truly, for love?" The question caught her off guard. It was something she rarely spoke about, even with close people. "I guess I never found someone who loved me for who I am, not for what I have. Men from my social class always saw in me first the heiress, then the woman." "And men from other social classes?" "Oh, those were too intimidated to approach, or they just wanted to take advantage of the money too. It's a loneliness that's hard to understand." "Do you understand?" "In a way, yes. It's different, but it's also loneliness. When you're poor, people see you as invisible. When you're rich, they see you as an opportunity. In both cases, they don't see you as a person." His observation surprised her. There was a depth in that man she was gradually discovering. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out, now continuing. "Caleb, have you ever been in love?" "Once, when I was 20, I dated a girl from the city for almost 2 years. "What happened?" "Her parents found out I was just a farm worker. They threatened to disinherit her if she didn't break up with me." "And she did?" "She did. I don't blame her. She had a comfortable life, a stable family. I couldn't offer any of that." "Do you still think about her?" "Sometimes, but more to remind myself that there are different worlds, and it's not always possible to cross from one to the other." "Perhaps now it is possible." "Perhaps." They stayed silent for a few moments, each lost in their own thoughts. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, lighting the office with a golden light. "Eleanor, can I make you a promise?" "What promise?" "I promise that, no matter what happens between us, I will take care of this estate as if it had always been mine. I will protect every family that works here. I will honor what you have built. And I promise I will fight this illness with all my strength, not just for the 5 years the doctors gave me, but for much longer." They embraced then, perhaps the first truly intimate embrace between them. It wasn't romantic love, at least not yet, but it was something deep and sincere. Companionship, mutual respect, and a connection neither of them had experienced before. Friday arrived faster than they expected. Eleanor woke up nervous, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. She chose a dark blue dress, elegant but not extravagant. After all, it wasn't a dream wedding. It was a life agreement. Caleb, for his part, had bought the first suit of his life. A simple navy blue set that had cost almost a month of his salary. When he looked in the mirror, He barely recognized himself. The courthouse was almost empty. The only people present were Eleanor's lawyer, Silas, whom Caleb had invited as a witness, and Mrs. Martha, an administrative employee from the estate whom Eleanor considered almost a mother. The courthouse official, a man in his 60s, conducted the ceremony in a procedural manner. When it came time for the vows, he asked if there was anything special the couple would like to say. Eleanor looked at Caleb and nodded. "Caleb, I promise I will be an honest partner to you. I will support you in all decisions about our property and our life. And I promise to fight this illness, not just for me, but for us." Caleb felt emotion tighten his throat. "Eleanor, I promise I will take care of you. The estate and everyone who depends on it with the same dedication I would care for my own family. I promise to be by your side in the difficult times to come, and I promise to make you proud of the trust you placed in me." When they exchanged the simple rings, Caleb noticed Eleanor's hands were trembling slightly. For a moment, she seemed like the vulnerable woman hiding behind the strong businesswoman. "You may kiss," said the official. It was a chaste kiss on the lips that lasted only a few seconds, but when they parted, there was something different in both their eyes, a connection that hadn't existed before. Silas was the first to congratulate them, followed by Mrs. Martha, who was crying with emotion. "May God bless you," she said, hugging Eleanor. "I knew you would find a good man one day." The lawyer limited himself to formal congratulations and handing over the documents. To him, this was just another job. When they left the courthouse, they were officially husband and wife. The feeling was strange for both of them. "And now?" asked Caleb. "Now we go home," answered Eleanor. "Our home." The drive back to the estate was made in silence. Each was processing the magnitude of what had happened. Their lives had changed forever in those few minutes at the courthouse. When they arrived at the estate, they were greeted with a surprise. The employees had prepared a small party in the outdoor area of the main house. There were simple decorations, a modest cake, and many flowers picked from the garden itself. "Surprise!" everyone shouted as Eleanor and Caleb got out of the car. Eleanor was moved. It was the first time in years anyone had done something like this for her. "Everyone, you didn't have to." "Of course we did, Mom," said Walter, the longest-serving employee. "You've always taken care of us. Today, we want to take care of you." "And Caleb, too," added Betty, the cook. "He's the boss now, too." Caleb felt strange being called boss by the people who, until yesterday, were his co-workers. But she realized they were genuinely happy for them. The celebration lasted until early evening. There was music, dancing, and many stories told. Eleanor discovered a side of the employees she had never seen before, and Caleb noticed how much they truly liked and respected Eleanor. When the party ended and everyone left, Eleanor and Caleb found themselves alone in the big house for the first time as husband and wife. "Caleb, I need to show you something," said Eleanor, leading him to the office. She opened a cabinet and pulled out a folder full of documents. "These are all the contracts, financial papers, information about suppliers and clients, everything you need to know about how the company operates." Caleb was impressed by the amount of paperwork. "That's a lot of information. It'll take me some time to understand it all." "You'll understand. And when you have questions, you can ask me. We still have time for me to teach you everything." "Eleanor, about our life here in the house. How will it work?" It was a question both had avoided until now. The house had 5 bedrooms, including the master suite where Eleanor had always slept. "I've thought about that too. I've prepared the guest room for you. It has its own bathroom and a nice view of the vineyards." "Thank you. I didn't want to inconvenience you." "Caleb, this is your home now too. You're not an inconvenience." They went upstairs together. Eleanor showed him the room she had prepared. It was comfortable and cozy, very different from the small room he had in the staff house. "If you need anything during the night, just call me. My room is right over there." "All right. Good night, Eleanor." "Good night, Caleb." When each retreated to their own room, the reality of the marriage became more concrete. They were living together now, sharing the same house, the same concerns, the same life. Caleb took a long time to fall asleep. Looking out the window at the vines lit by the moon, He tried to process everything that had happened. In just a few days, his life had completely changed. Eleanor couldn't sleep either. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone in the big house. There was another person there, someone who cared about her and what she had built. The next morning, they began to establish a new routine. Eleanor made breakfast, something she hadn't done in years, and they talked about the plans for the day. "Today, I want to formally introduce you to all the main suppliers and clients," she said. "It's important that they know you and trust you. Do you think they'll accept me easily? Some will, others will have doubts at first. But when they see your competence, they'll change their minds." The first test came sooner than expected. Around 9 in the morning, Mr. Arthur Sterling, the main wine buyer in the region, arrived at the estate. He was a man known for his demanding nature and distrust. "Ms. Eleanor, I heard some strange rumors in town. They said you married an employee. I hope it's just gossip." "It's not gossip, Arthur. I'd like to introduce my husband, Caleb Miller." The man looked Caleb up and down with evident disapproval. "Pleasure, Mr. Arthur," said Caleb, extending his hand. "Humph." Arthur shook his hand quickly and coldly. "Miss Eleanor, may I speak with you in private?" "You can speak in front of Caleb. He is now responsible for the business too." "Miss Eleanor, with all due respect, I've worked with you for 15 years. I know your seriousness and competence, but I cannot entrust my orders to someone who, until last week, was just an employee." Caleb felt the blood rush to his head, but he controlled himself. "Mr. Arthur, I understand your concern. How about if I demonstrate my knowledge about our wines?" "How so?" "You usually buy mainly our 2019 vintage Cabernet Sauvignon, right? Full-bodied flavor, pronounced tannins, ideal for red meats." Arthur seemed surprised. "Go on." "Your last order was for 200 cases, always delivered in the 3rd week of the month. You always insisted the bottles be stored at a controlled temperature during transport because you resell to high-end restaurants." "How do you know all this?" "Because I follow every step of production from planting to delivery. I know when each grape was harvested, how the fermentation was done, how many months each wine spent in oak." Eleanor watched the scene with pride. Caleb was proving his worth without needing to humiliate anyone. "Mr. Arthur," Caleb continued, "I respect your concern. How about we maintain the same quality and service standards for the next 3 months? If you're not satisfied, you can review your contracts with us." Arthur considered the proposal for a few moments. "All right, but I want Miss Eleanor's personal guarantee." "You can rest easy, Arthur," said Eleanor. "Caleb knows our processes better than anyone." After Arthur left, Eleanor couldn't stop smiling. "Caleb, you were perfect. How did you manage to memorize all these client details?" "I always paid attention to everything. Even when it wasn't my responsibility, I wanted to understand how the estate worked completely." "That's very rare. Most people only worry about their part of the job." "My mother always said if you want to have something in life, you need to understand how that thing works completely." "Your mother sounds like she was a wise woman." "She was. She worked her whole life as a housekeeper, but she always dreamed I'd have better opportunities. She would be proud of you today." "I hope so." The following days established a pattern. Eleanor introduced Caleb to business contacts in the morning, and in the afternoon they visited different sectors of the estate together. She explained administrative details he didn't yet know, while he showed practical aspects of production she had never noticed. It was during one of these visits that they discovered a serious problem. The planting in the northern section was showing signs of a disease that could spread to the entire crop. "Caleb, is this serious?" asked Eleanor, observing the yellowed leaves. "Very serious. If we don't treat it quickly, it could destroy 1/3 of the harvest." "What's the treatment?" "There's a specific fungicide, but it's expensive. And there's an organic technique I learned in a course, but it takes more time and requires more work." "Which do you recommend?" "The organic technique. It will be harder, but in the long run it's better for the land and for the quality of the wines." "Then let's do it that way." "Are you sure? It will cost more and take longer." "Caleb, you are in charge of production now. If you think it's the best option, I trust your judgment." Her trust motivated him even more. Caleb organized an operation that involved all the estate workers. For 2 weeks they worked from sun-up to sundown, applying organic treatments and removing affected plants by hand. Eleanor, despite her health condition, insisted on following the work. Some days she was stronger, others weaker, but always present. It was during one of these intense work days that Caleb noticed something changing in his feelings for Eleanor. It was no longer just respect or camaraderie. He was starting to care for her in a deeper way. The moment of revelation came one afternoon when Eleanor fell ill in the middle of the planting. She was helping to carry buckets of organic solution when she simply collapsed. Caleb carried her in his arms to the house, running as he had never run in his life. His heart raced not just from the physical effort, but from a genuine fear of losing her. "Eleanor, stay with me. Don't faint." She opened her eyes and smiled weakly. "I'm fine, Caleb. I just overdid it a little." "You are not fine. I'm taking you to the hospital right now." "There's no need. It's normal to feel weak sometimes because of the medication." When they arrived home, Caleb gently placed her on the sofa and brought water and medicine. "Eleanor, you can't work in the fields anymore. It's too much strain for you." "But I want to help." "You help by teaching me about the administrative side. Leave the heavy work to me and the others." "Caleb, I'm afraid of becoming useless." "You will never be useless. You are the most important person on this estate." The words left his mouth before he could think. Eleanor looked at him with surprise. "The most important person?" "Yes. To me, you are the most important person." They looked at each other in silence for a few moments. There was something different in the air between them. "Caleb, you don't have to say that just to comfort me." "I'm not saying it to comfort you. I'm saying it because it's true." Eleanor felt her heart race. It had been a long time since anyone made her feel important as a person, not as a businesswoman. "I care about you a lot too, Caleb." "Care how?" Like more than a business partner, more than a friend." "Eleanor, I know our marriage started as an arrangement, but for me it's becoming something more." Caleb moved closer to her on the sofa. "For me too." They kissed then, but this time it was different from the formal kiss at the courthouse. It was a real kiss, full of feeling and desire. When they parted, both were breathless. "What is happening to us?" asked Eleanor. "I think we're falling in love." But that wasn't in the contract. The best feelings never are in contracts. That night, for the first time, they had dinner together like a real couple. They talked about dreams, fears, plans for the future. They discovered they had much more in common than they had imagined. "Caleb, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Do you feel like you're losing your freedom by marrying me?" "No, I feel like I'm gaining a life I never thought I could have. And I feel like I'm gaining a partner I never thought I deserved." "Eleanor, you deserve all the love in the world." "Even being a woman with an expiration date?" "Don't talk like that. You don't have an expiration date. You have a medical condition that we will face together." The word "together" sounded different now. It was no longer a business arrangement. It was a true emotional commitment. In the following weeks, their relationship deepened even further. Caleb took over the operational management of the estate completely, allowing Eleanor to focus on her medical treatments and the strategic side of the business. The results were surprising. With Caleb directly overseeing production, the quality of the wines improved significantly. He implemented techniques he had studied for years, but never had the opportunity to apply. The problem with the disease in the vineyard was completely resolved using organic methods, and the harvest proved to be one of the best in the estate's history. "Caleb, how did you manage this?" asked Eleanor, tasting the wine from the new harvest. "By paying attention to the details that make a difference, and most importantly, by caring for the plants as if they were children." "Children?" "Each vine has its own personality. Some need more water, others need more sun. When you treat each one individually, the result is better. And the employees? How is it to lead people who were your colleagues?" "At first it was difficult. Some tested my authority. But when they realized I still respect them, and that the decisions I make are good for everyone, things flowed naturally." Caleb's competence did not go unnoticed in the region. Other producers began seeking him out for advice and partnerships. Eleanor, Mr. Gustavo from the neighboring estate wants to propose a partnership for joint export. What do you think? What do you think? I think it could be interesting. Combining our production with his, we could negotiate larger contracts with international importers. Then let's move forward. The ease with which Eleanor delegated important decisions to him still surprised him. It was a demonstration of trust he took very seriously. But not everything was rosy. Eleanor's health began to deteriorate more rapidly than they had expected. The conventional treatments were not working, as the doctors had predicted. One morning she woke up with a headache so intense she couldn't get out of bed. "Caleb, I think I need to go to the hospital," she said, her voice weak. He took her immediately to Boston, where she was hospitalized for a week for a battery of tests. "Mr. Caleb," said the doctor, "unfortunately the tumor has grown more than we expected. We will have to move to more aggressive treatments." "What kind of treatments?" "Intensive chemotherapy. It will be difficult for her. She will become very weak, lose her hair, have constant nausea." "Doctor, what about that experimental treatment you mentioned?" "It is still available, but the chances of success are even lower now that the tumor has grown." "How much does it cost?" $300,000. It increased because the treatment would now be longer. Caleb did not hesitate. "Let's do it." "Mr. Caleb, do you understand the chances?" "Doctor, the chances don't matter. As long as there is hope, we will fight." When Caleb told Eleanor about his decision, she began to cry. "Caleb, that's so much money. What if it doesn't work?" "If it doesn't work, at least we'll know we tried everything." "But it will work, Eleanor. I'm sure of it." "How can you be sure?" "Because you are the strongest woman I know, and because I will be by your side every second of this fight." The experimental treatment began the following week. It was indeed very aggressive. Eleanor was hospitalized for several days each week, returning home only on weekends. Caleb organized his routine to be present for all the important moments. In the morning he managed the estate. In the afternoon he traveled to Boston to be with her in the hospital. "Caleb, you're killing yourself," Eleanor said during one of the hospital stays. "You can't travel every day." "Yes, I can. You are more important than anything." "But the estate is running perfectly. I trained supervisors for each department. They know what to do." "What if I don't get better? You'll be sacrificing yourself for nothing." "It's not a sacrifice, Eleanor. It's love." It was the first time he had used that word. Eleanor felt her eyes fill with tears. "Do you really love me? Like this, sick, bald, weak?" "I love you exactly like this. I love you for your strength, your courage, your kindness." "I love you too, Caleb. I love you so much more than I ever thought it was possible to love someone." They kissed right there in the hospital room, under the understanding gaze of the nurse caring for Eleanor. The treatment lasted 4 months. They were the most difficult months of both their lives, but also the ones that brought them closest together. Caleb learned to care for Eleanor in her moments of weakness, and she learned to accept help without feeling like a burden. During this period, the estate not only did not suffer, it prospered even more. Caleb had truly created an efficient structure that functioned even with his partial absence. The treatment result came on a Friday morning. The doctor asked to speak with them both together. "I have good news," he said, smiling. "The tumor has shrunk by 60%. The chances of survival have increased significantly." Eleanor and Caleb hugged and cried right there in the office. "How long?" asked Caleb. "If we continue with the maintenance treatment, she can have a normal life for many, many years." "Normal?" asked Eleanor. "With some limitations, but yes, normal. She can work, travel, have a full marital life." The word marital made them both smile. Their marriage had transformed into something neither of them had expected. Back at the estate, they celebrated the news with all the employees. The joy was genuine. During the months of treatment, everyone had mobilized to support the couple. "Boss, you look beautiful, even bald," joked Betty, the cook. "And Caleb really has become a true boss," added Silas, "but a boss who hasn't forgotten where he came from." That night, Eleanor and Caleb talked about the future differently. It was no longer a conversation about 5 years of survival. It was a conversation about decades of life together. Caleb, what do you want to do now that we know we have time? I want to expand the estate. I want it to become a national reference for organic wines. I want to create a technical school here to teach young people from the region. And I want to give you children. Her statement caught him completely off guard. Children? The doctor said I can get pregnant normally, that the treatment didn't affect my fertility. Eleanor, are you sure after everything we've been through? Precisely because of everything we've been through, I want our story to continue through our children. Caleb picked her up and spun her around the room. Then we'll have many children, and they'll grow up running between the vines. And they'll learn to make wine before they learn to ride a bike. They laughed together, planning a future that seemed impossible just a few months before. 2 years later, Clara was born, a girl with blue eyes like her mother and dark hair like her father. Eleanor was completely cured, and the estate had become one of the most respected in the country. Julian, Eleanor's brother, had tried to contest the marriage in court, but lost at every turn. Eventually he realized it was better to accept the situation and try to reconcile with his sister. Eleanor, I want to apologize, he said, visiting the estate for the first time since the wedding. I was wrong about Caleb. You certainly were, she agreed without bitterness. He transformed this place, and he transformed you too. How so? You're happier than I've ever seen you in your entire life. Eleanor looked at Caleb, who was playing with Clara in the garden. It's true, I never imagined I could be this happy. Can I try to restart our relationship? You can, but you'll have to prove you've really changed. Julian proved it. He stopped gambling, got an honest job, and slowly regained his sister's trust. The estate continued to grow. Caleb implemented his technical school project, which attracted young people from all over the region. The estate's wines won international awards and became a benchmark for sustainable production. You know what's most amazing about all this? Said Eleanor one night as they watched Clara sleep. What? That it started with the saddest thing in my life, finding out I was sick, and it turned into the most beautiful thing, finding you. For me, too. If someone had told me 5 years ago that I'd be the owner of an estate, married to you, and the father of a beautiful girl, I'd have said they were crazy. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected situations. It's true. And sometimes a marriage of convenience can turn into the greatest love of a person's life. Clara woke up and started to cry. Caleb got up to get her, but Eleanor was faster. Let me. You were up in the middle of the night yesterday. Let's both go. We're a family. They went together to care for their daughter, as they had done everything since they married. Together. The estate prospered for many years under the management of Caleb and Eleanor. They had 2 more children, Thomas and Lucy. The children grew up knowing every worker by name, playing among the grapevines and learning that hard work and honesty are fundamental values. Eleanor remained cured for decades. The tumor never returned, and the doctors eventually considered her officially free of the disease. You know what I think cured me, she said one morning, as they walked together through the vines. The treatment? No. It was having a reason to live. It was having you, having our family, having our mission. Our mission. To prove that love can arise from the most unlikely circumstances and become the truest thing in the world. Caleb stopped walking and kissed her right there, among the grapevines where it had all begun. Mission accomplished then. Mission accomplished. End of story. And you? What did you think of this incredible love story, born from such a difficult situation? Leave in the comments if you believe true love can arise even from life's most desperate moments. Also, tell us where you're watching from. If you were as moved as I was telling this story, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one. Thank you so much for your company.